Good evening everyone, welcome to Bajirao IAS Academy, the Hindu News Analysis. Today is 19th July 2025 and today we have some very important topics for the discussion. So one by one we'll try to discuss all these important topics in a detailed and in-depth manner. So the first topic with which we're going to start this session is about inequality debate in India. Right, so in India, inequality is one of the major problem that we have been facing in terms of income inequality, in terms of regional inequalities, wealth inequalities. So therefore, not just in India but around the world, inequality is one of the core issue. So however, recently World Bank has published a report stating that inequality in India has been reduced. So after that there has been a debate started that really inequality in India has declined. Now the context is that World Bank has published a report called India's Poverty and Equity Brief, April 2025. So in this particular report by the World Bank, it has claimed that inequality has declined. However, it has sparked a debate by claiming a significant reduction in the consumption inequality, right? So it's not about the wealth inequality, income inequality, but it said that there is a significant decline or reduction in the consumption inequality and the near eradication of extreme poverty in India as well. However, the World Bank has claimed that the consumption inequality has declined and there is a near eradication of extreme poverty, and it is based on household consumption expenditure survey data. So based on household consumption expenditure data, the World Bank has claimed that poverty declined and also the consumption inequality has also declined in India. So I hope you have understood the context of this topic. Now if we look into the evidence from the household consumption expenditure survey and what World Bank findings are with respect to declining consumption inequality or a drastic reduction in the extreme poverty in India. Now in fact, World Bank has said that India's Gini coefficient, so Gini coefficient actually measures the inequality in any country, but when it comes to India's Gini coefficient, so it has further declined, particularly with respect to consumption expenditure, right? So or consumption inequality. So Gini coefficient for India is 28.8 in 2011-12. It has been declined to 25.5% in 22 and 23, right? So declining Gini coefficient in consumption expenditure actually means that there is a decline in the consumption inequality patterns. So therefore it places India among the top 4 least unequal countries in terms of the consumption distribution. However, this is actually a huge achievement for India because India is placed in top 4 unequal countries in terms of the consumption distribution. But after that there were counterclaims stating that inequality in real sense has not declined in India, but World Bank report has been talking about the consumption distribution or consumption expenditure alone. So consumption expenditure alone will not actually represent the actual income inequality or wealth inequality in India. So however, as I have already told you that the World Bank findings are based on or grounded on household consumption expenditure survey that was conducted in 2023 and 22, right? So in this household consumption expenditure survey, so they have used the modified mixed preference reference period. So it actually, the modified mixed reference period, this is actually aligned with the global best practices that are being followed, and it is also adjusted partially for in-kind government support, right? So government also provides support in kind and cash also. So therefore this modified mixed reference period is aligned with the global best practices and it is also adjusted for the in-kind government support partially as well. But now the critics have been saying that the elite consumption is underrepresented in this report, right? Because This is a universal limitation in the household survey methodologies. It does not take into consideration or observed the trend among 95% of the population, right? So there are some fundamental flaws in the way the household consumption expenditure survey has been conducted in India. So therefore World Bank grounding its report saying that the consumption expenditure inequality has drastically declined, so that is actually having a fundamental shortcoming. So this is what the critics have been claiming about. Now first of all, try to understand what exactly is a Gini coefficient. So when we talk about the Gini coefficient, so it actually represents the distribution of income among different groups of people, right? So it actually measures the degree of income inequality in a country's population. So Gini coefficient's value, so it varies from 0 to 1. So 1 actually means that higher level of inequality, and 0 actually represents the low levels of inequality in any country, right? So you have to remember this. So 1 means higher level of inequality, 0 means lower level of inequality. And in fact, so the Gini coefficient is also considered as the indicator of economic development for any country, right? So this is one of the indicator for the economic development of any country, and its value varies from 0 to 1, and it represents the distribution of income among different groups of people. So now we'll understand the broader economic trends and welfare impact. So if you look at the broader economic trends and welfare impact between 2012 and 2023, if you look into the per capita milk and egg availability, so it actually increased from 45% to 63% respectively, right? So it has increased from 45% to 63% respectively, with increased consumption of fruits, vegetables and proteins, right? Especially among the bottom 20% of the rural and urban households, right? So this is the overall economic or the broader economic trend, right? So in this period of 10 years, so the per capita milk and egg availability that has been increased from 45% and 63%, right? So there has been a substantial increase in the consumption of or availability of milk and egg. So this is per capita availability, right? And in fact, there has been an increased consumption of fruits, vegetables and proteins as well, especially among the bottom 20% of the rural and urban households. So therefore there has been a substantial increase in the consumption at the bottom 20% of the people. So therefore we can say that the consumption inequality has substantially declined from this available data. And in fact, over a period of time, number of committees were constituted to study poverty in India, to provide some accurate data to or the methodologies to calculate poverty in India. So based on Rangarajan committee, Tendulkar committee and the MPI frameworks, that is multidimensional poverty index framework. So earlier Rangarajan committee was appointed, Tendulkar committee was also appointed to provide the methodologies to calculate poverty accurately. So they approximately said that 270 million people have moved out of extreme poverty between 2011 to 2023. So therefore it has been indicating a substantial welfare gains that India has made. So however, it is true, because not just these different committees, and in fact the World Bank has also claimed that India is successful in terms of bringing number of people out of poverty. And similarly, the government has been implementing number of programs which takes care of the basic necessities of the people, and that helps in bringing people out of the poverty cycle. For example, schemes like Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin, so it provides basic housing for the people who are below poverty line, who lack the houses and who don't own the houses. And Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, so this provides basic roads in rural areas that improves connectivity. So all these different programs launched by the governments have improved or contributed to a sharp increase in the Pakka housing, right? So that has led to a sharp increase in the Pakka housing and rural road connectivity as well. So thereby enabling 40% of the poorest 20% to own vehicle in 2023, up from just 6% in 2011, right? So therefore all these different schemes have also positively contributed for lifting people out of poverty. Now if you look at revisiting income inequality and the data sources that we already have, so World Inequality Lab it claims that the methodological issues as World Inequality Labs, so this estimates that the estimates of World Inequality Lab, so they heavily dependent on income tax records and outdated consumption data, assuming that 70 to 80% of the households they just spend more than they earn, right? So therefore it has been leading to the underestimation of bottom income shares, right? So apart from that, the even with the World Inequality Labs data, the bottom 50% actually share in national income increased from 9% to 15%, right? So it is even increased from 9% to 15%, while top 10% share has declined from 58.8% to 57.7%. So therefore it has been suggesting that there has been a stable and a declining income inequality, and that is what all this data has been pointing out towards, right? So there has been the bottom 50% share in total national income has to marginally increased 9 to 15%, right? So this can be attributed to declining income inequality. And similarly, top 10% of India's rich or wealthiest share has been reduced from 58.8% to 57.7%. So therefore there has been a stable and declining income inequality that can be observed in India. However, the problem is that the most inequality narratives, so they actually overlook the post-tax and post-transfer incomes of individuals, right? So they have to look into this aspect as well, because the welfare spending in India is around 8% of its GDP, but the real inequality is likely overstated in India. So when somebody says that there is a very high levels of inequalities in India, so they have overstated the inequality in India, because especially the top 1% of the wealthy individuals pay around 42% of the income tax. But here the problem is that the inequality narrative, they likely overlook the post-tax and post-transfer incomes in India. And the next important topic is India and China relations. So if we talk about the India and China relations, so the context is that recently high level meetings including Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping, so their interactions, their meetings also took place on the sidelines of 2024 BRICS summit in Kazan, Russia. So therefore it actually signals a cautious diplomatic movement to reduce the tensions post 2020 Galwan Valley clash. So we have seen a deadly Galwan clash 2020, and that is disastrous for India, and it is also said that there are some casualties on the Chinese side also. So post Galwan 2020 clash, so Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping, they have met on the sidelines of this BRICS meeting at Kazan, Russia, so to take to build measures or to ensure that both India and China improve their relations. Now, I would say that these meetings, these informal meetings, would be a strategic recalibration after the Galwan clashes. Now, the Galwan incident of 2020, so it deeply strained the bilateral ties. Right, so it has resulted in a deep straining of the bilateral relations between both China and India. However, so if we talk about the interactions at BRICS 2024 SCO meetings, so they actually indicate a cautious push towards the de-escalation and resumption of ties between both India and China. So we all knew that how after Galwan clashes, both countries have engaged directly with each other. However, after the Galwan clashes, there are number of formal meetings that took place, formal summits on the sidelines of these summits, whether it is a Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit or BRICS summit. So on the sidelines of the summit, the leaders of both India and China, they have met, and they also made efforts for the cautious push towards de-escalation and for the resumption of ties between India and China as well. However, the Indian ministers have been regularly advocated for early disengagement and a confidence building in the border zones. Right, so especially the eastern Ladakh. So in the eastern Ladakh area, so they have been trying for the confidence building and disengagement at an early stage, where patrolling and surveillance had become highly sensitive in the eastern Ladakh area. So, however, here India reaffirms one China principle on Taiwan and Tibet. Beijing has shown a little reciprocity towards India's sensitivities with respect to Jammu and Kashmir and Pakistan-sponsored terrorism. Now, here the problem is that China has been continuously supporting the Pakistani-sponsored terrorism into Indian side, and China is also little sensitive about India's concerns with respect to Jammu and Kashmir, because China has also been building the China has also building China-Pakistan economic corridor, and China-Pakistan economic corridor has been passing through the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Right, so Pakistan occupied Kashmir. So therefore, India has expressed its concerns about the China-Pakistan economic corridor, but China is less sensitive. But in contrary to that, India has been following one China policy with respect to Tibet and Taiwan. So therefore, China should also understand India's concerns, and that is the first step in further strengthening the relations between India and China. Now, if we talk about the actual structural asymmetries in bilateral relations which are existing between both India and China, so India actually seeks parity in bilateral conduct, right? So there should be some sort of a parity, there should be some sort of an equality between the bilateral relations with each other. But here the problem is that China has been continuously backing, supporting Pakistan and even Pakistani-based terrorist organizations as well. So, for example, China has been time and again obstructing the counter-terror consensus at the UN and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So, therefore, it has been undermining the mutual trust, because India has been believing that China has been continuously supporting these terrorist organizations, which continues to be a threat for India. So therefore, that is a one factor which has been limiting India, which has been pulling back India to fully engage with China. So therefore, China must understand India's concerns. If India has been facing threats from cross-border terrorism from Pakistan, China should be ready to condemn and should also support India in its war against terrorism. And apart from that, China's use of this Confucius institutes and surveillance via Chinese firms and the alleged espionage through academics or apps. So all these factors have further deepened India's security concerns and prompted a regulatory crackdowns as well, because India has banned around 57 Chinese apps because of the concerns with respect to security, national security, surveillance. So all these factors. So therefore, it is find that if China has been launching several apps in India, but we have some security concerns, we have surveillance concerns, and China should also take care of such a concerns of India. However, here the frequent incursions by the Chinese personals into the Indian side of line of actual control, that is problematic, and that has been creating a standoff situation at the line of actual control between India and China. And apart from that, the ambiguous messaging and strategic ambiguity on border to prevent the normalization of relations, so thereby stalling the regional stability efforts. Now, in fact, India very often says that Arunachal Pradesh is inalienable part of India, and in recent times, China has been renaming some parts of Arunachal Pradesh. So therefore, India has been strongly protesting against such attempts by China. So therefore, China should understand India's concerns, and China should stop doing such things like renaming some places in Arunachal Pradesh, claiming that Arunachal Pradesh is part of India. Now, what should be the future trajectory and the diplomatic priorities of India and China? Now, we all knew that there is a platform called BRICS platform. Both India and China are part of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Also another platform where India and China are also part of, and another organization called RIC, Russia, India, China. So Russia has been planning to revive this RIC grouping so that these chains could come together and they actually further strengthen their cooperation among themselves. So BRICS platform is known as a valuable platform, but it is not sufficient to address the bilateral issues which are existed between India and China. However, India's positions on sovereignty, security, territorial integrity, so they must be recognized explicitly in the bilateral frameworks. Right. So if I talk about the sovereignty and security, for example, the line of actual control and frequent border incursions by the Chinese personnel, and if we talk about the sovereignty of India, China has been renaming some places in Arunachal Pradesh. So all these concerns must be explicitly resolved in the bilateral frameworks, along with cooperating in these multilateral frameworks such as BRICS and Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Right. So here another dimension is trade dimension. So despite having a strong trade figures between India and China, the problem here is that India has a huge trade deficit with China. So huge trade deficit with China. So at one point of time, China is the largest trading partner of India, but the problem is that huge trade deficit which is existing for India with China, right? And there is insufficient economic interdependence to offset this political distrust, because India remains wary of China's economic coercion and supply chain vulnerabilities, because recently China has stopped sending some critical minerals to India, and that badly hits our manufacturing, our automobile manufacturing sector. So therefore, India remains wary of the supply chain vulnerabilities that India could face from China and the economic coercion by China as well. So therefore, India actually calls for mutuality in core concerns such as terrorism, cross-border terrorism emanating from Pakistan, China supporting the cross-border terrorism, because China blocked the consensus in UN, and China even stopped sanctioning some terrorist organizations based out of Pakistan, and sovereignty concerns and non-interference. So therefore, China must move beyond symbolic cooperation to real verifiable commitments, and that is very, very important here. Right. So next important topic is PM Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana. Right. So first of all, we'll understand what exactly is a PM Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana. There is an article that has been given in the Hindu newspaper. So this is also very, very important scheme for prelims and mains examination. So under the Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana, so it has been launched by the Union government in the recent budget of 25-26. Right. So under this, the Pradhan Mantri Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana, it is a partnership with states to help around 1.7 crore Indian farmers. Right. So the PM Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana will cover 100 districts with lower productivity, moderate crop intensity, and below average credit performance, right? So it will select 100 districts which are having all these different issues, right? So therefore PM Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana actually aims to enhance agricultural productivity in India and further adapt to crop diversification, sustainable agricultural practices. And thirdly, it augments the post-harvest storage at panchayat and block level, and it improves irrigation facilities, and it also facilitates availability of long-term and short-term credit for the farmers as well. Now, if we talk about the context of this particular topic, so the context is that the Union Cabinet has approved this PM Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana, and this PM Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana so aims to enhance the agricultural productivity in around 100 districts through the convergence of 36 schemes and across 11 ministries, and it is beginning from October 2025, right? So therefore, so if we talk about the structural and administrative framework of PM Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana, so as I have already told you that it is going to integrate around 36 existing schemes and 11 departments, including the flagship programs such as PM Kisan program, which which is a direct benefit transfer or a financial incentive of rupees 6,000 for every landed farmer, not every landed farmer, or farmer who is having a below 5 acre of land. So he'll be given a financial incentive of 6,000 rupees every year in 3 installments. And the Fasal Bima Yojana, this is a crop insurance scheme. This covers both Kharif and Rabi crops for the farmers, and so this actually aimed for the targeted agricultural development, right? So it is a multi-pronged scheme that focuses different aspects. However, the Pradhan Mantri Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana actually an element of district level implementation. So it is implemented at the district level, right? Because at the district level, district Dhan Dhanya Samitis will identify the local state schemes for inclusion and draft a district specific agricultural plans which can be aligned with the national objectives. So therefore that would result in the targeted agricultural development in around 100 districts across the country. So apart from that, the central government will regularly track and monitor the implementation of this program, right? The center will track the progress across 117 key indicators monthly, thereby ensuring timely course correction and even the policy responsiveness as well. Now, what are the objectives and the strategic rationale when the government has launched such a program, right? So as I have already told you that the government will identify 100 low productivity districts, and this scheme will seeks to reduce the intra and interstate disparities in agricultural productivity and credit disbursement, right? So there are some intra and interstate disparities when it comes to the agricultural productivity, and in this respect, some states have a high agricultural productivity and other states have a low agricultural productivity, and in fact all the farmers are also not having access to the institutional credit as well. So therefore Pradhan Mantri Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana will focus on these aspects in 100 identified low productivity districts. Similarly, the scheme aims to promote the value addition, crop diversification, and even increased domestic production in critical sectors such as food grains, edible oils, and the pulses, right? So these are the other areas also, so that will help in value addition, crop diversification in India. So that is also the need of the hour, because after green revolution monocropping has significantly and substantially increased. So crop diversification is also the need of the hour, and increased domestic production in critical sectors such as food grains and edible oils, pulses. So through the public private partnership, the government seeks to harness the private capital technology for sustainable agricultural transformation, and that is also another area that has to be focused upon, right? Because it is being said that the government or the public investment in agriculture sector is also very less, and in this context we need to leverage the public private partnerships and that will further strengthen further enhance capital and technology, and that could result in sustainable agricultural transformation in India. Now, what are the existing challenges and the structural concerns when it comes to implementation of Pradhan Mantri Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana? Now, parliamentary data has revealed that there has been a continuous decline in the share of total central plan outlay from 3.53% in 21-22 to 2.51% in 25-26. So therefore, it has been raising some concerns over the scheme's fiscal commitment. Secondly, the pursuit of uniform agricultural model. So it even may overlook local agroecological diversity, thereby risking inefficiency at the grassroots level, and that is also another major issue that we have been facing, right? So these uniform agricultural models will not actually work for number of other states, so therefore there should be a need for a tailored model that should suit different districts and their needs. However, definitely the success of the Pradhan Mantri Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana, it actually depends on the actual involvement of local self-governments and the primary agricultural and credit societies, agri-universities and the farmer collectives. So different stakeholders should come together, and only then the Pradhan Mantri Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana will actually see the much needed success. Right. So the next important topic is India's first indigenous diving support vessel Nistar has been decommissioned by the Indian Navy, and this could be important. So let's look into this topic. This has been given in the Indian Express newspaper. So if you look at the context, so INS Nistar. So INS Nistar is actually the indigenously designed and constructed diving support vessel. Right, so indigenously constructed means that 100% of its components are designed and developed in India alone, right? So this is a first diving support vessel, and that has been recently commissioned by Indian Navy at Visakhapatnam to support deep sea diving and even the submarine rescue operations. Now, because of the growing importance for the Indo-Pacific and India's ambitions to acquire more submarines and continue the submarine operations, needed such a diving support vessel because it plays a very important role in submarine rescue operations and even providing support during the deep sea diving for the submarines. Now, if we talk about the INS Nistar, so INS Nistar is a diving support vessel. So this is one of two diving support vessels which were ordered in 2018 by the Indian Navy, and its sister ship is called as INS Nipun. It is not yet decommissioned. Nistar has been decommissioned, but Nipun is not yet decommissioned, and it is also expected to be expected to be commissioned very soon. Right. So the vessel was indigenously designed and built by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited with over 80% of indigenous content, and it has involving 120 MSMEs, thereby showcasing the Atmanirbhar Bharat vision. Because under the Atmanirbhar Bharat vision, we wanted to be self-reliant and we wanted to be self-sufficient. So this Nistar vessel, 80% of the content has been procured from the domestic industries, particularly around 120 MSMEs. Right. So if you look into the technical and operational capabilities of this INS Nistar, so it is approximately 10,500 tons of weight, and its length is 120 meters, and its endurance is 60 plus days at sea. And it is even equipped with air and saturation diving systems, underwater ROVs, side scan sonar, and a 15-ton subsea crane as well. Right, so it is having the state of the art equipment with itself, and in fact it is also considered as a mothership for deep submergence rescue vehicle, and it is acquired from UK James Fisher and Sons in the year 2018 and 2019. So if we talk about the strategic and regional significance of this INS Nistar, which is recently commissioned by the Indian Navy, Now, INS Nistar is further expected to strengthen India's capacity for deep sea submarine rescue operations, and it is also crucial for India's growing submarine fleet and its operations. And apart from that, it is also expected to further strengthen the maritime domain awareness, humanitarian assistance and disaster relief operations in the Indian Ocean and beyond, and further strengthen India's role as a net security provider in the Indian Ocean region. And apart from that, India commissioning INS Nistar along with INS Nipun, which is not yet commissioned, so it actually places India among only 12 countries worldwide which are having deep diving submarine rescue vessel capabilities, right? So at present throughout the world, only 12 countries have the deep diving submarine rescue vessels. So India is one such country. And in fact, it is expected that this Nistar, eastern seaboard, Vishakhapatnam, a place where INS Nistar has been commissioned, and Nipun is western seaboard, Mumbai. So they actually ensure rapid and simultaneous response capabilities in terms of rescuing the submarines and the deep dive assistance for the Indian Navy. I hope you have understood, and that's all in this lecture, and thank you so much. And if you like our lecture, please subscribe our YouTube channel and also hit the like button. Thank you.